buried beneath layers of ancient earth wrapped in rich fabrics and crowned with a mask of solid gold. She had tattoos across her skin, weapons by her side, and the silence of 15 centuries surrounding her. She was not a queen by name, but by power. She died young, likely during childbirth, yet she was honored like a goddess. Who was she, and why did her people bury her like a ruler with a golden face? In this video, we travel back over 1,500 years to the northern deserts of Peru, to the world of the Mocha civilization, a culture that worshipped the sun, mastered metalwork, and feared the supernatural cure. At the site of El Brullo, archaeologists uncovered one of the most haunting discoveries in South American history, a woman now known as the Lady of Kauai, leader, a priestess, a warrior, a mystery. She wore gold, she bore weapons, she held power in a world that rarely gave it to women. And yet most people outside Peru have never heard of her. Stay with us as we uncover her untold story, the secrets hidden in her burial, the meaning behind her tattoos, and the shocking truths that rewrote what we thought we knew about ancient power. You don't want to miss what's coming. Welcome to History Screen, where the forgotten past comes back to life. If you enjoy true history told with mystery and depth, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story long. Before the Incas ruled Peru, another powerful culture thrived along the northern coast. They were the Mocha, a mysterious people who lived between 100 and 800 CE. Their cities stretched across dry deserts and green river valleys near the Pacific Ocean. What they built there would last for centuries. The Mocha were not a single kingdom. They were more like a group of small connected city-states. Each city had its own ruler and temples, but they shared the same God's beliefs and way of life. The land they lived on was harsh with little rain. Still, they learned how to use rivers to farm. They grew corn, beans, squash, and cotton. With this food, their cities grew strong. These people were brilliant builders and artists. They made great pyramids using mud bricks. Some of their temples were as high as modern buildings. Their pottery was full of life, showing gods, warriors, animals, and even everyday tasks. Their metalwork was just as skillful. Mocha craftspeople shaped gold into fine jewelry, headpieces, and even masks. Gold wasn't just decoration to the Mocha. It was holy. It was linked to the sun, their most important god. Gold was used in rituals, offerings, and burials. The dead were often buried with gold items meant to guide them to the next world. High-status people, especially rulers and priests, were honored with golden masks. These were not just beautiful. They were symbols of power, connection to the gods, and eternal life. Is deep respect for gold and the divine would shape how the Mocha treated their leaders both in life and in death, and it set the stage for one of their most shocking discoveries: a woman buried with weapons and wrapped in gold in the dry coastal lands of northern Peru. Stands a giant adobe pyramid called Huaca Cal Viejo. For centuries, it sat silent, half buried by sand, and time locals believed the site was sacred. Some thought spirits lived there. But in 2006, a team of archaeologists digging at the site made a discovery that shocked the world. Deep inside the pyramid, under layers of bricks and earth, they found an ancient burial chamber. Inside was the mummy of a young woman. She had been buried with fine fabrics, gold ornaments, and weapons. Her skin was covered in tattoos, dark ink, still visible after 1,500 years. Her body was well preserved, and her presence raised many questions. Who was this woman, and why was she buried like a ruler? She quickly became known as the Lady of Kauai, named after the site where she was found. Her remains suggested she had died in her mid-20s. Close study of her bones and body showed signs of a difficult labor. Experts believe she likely died during childbirth. But her death was not what surprised them the most. It was how she had been buried. The Lady of Kauai was placed with great care. Her body was wrapped in cotton, covered with layers of reed mats, and surrounded by ceramic jars, ceremonial objects, and weapons. A set of ornate clubs and spears were laid beside her items, usually reserved for high-ranking warriors or leaders. Her golden jewelry included nose rings, earrings, and a crown-like headdress. These were not common gifts for a wife or priestess. These were marks of power. Even more fascinating were the tattoos on her arms, hands, and feet. Serpents, crabs, and symbols of the moon covered her skin. These designs may have marked her as a spiritual leader or healer. They hinted at a woman who held both religious and political authority in a male-dominated world. The Lady of Kau was not buried like an ordinary person. Her burial followed a long and sacred process. Her body was first wrapped in thick layers of soft cotton. Then it was enclosed in reed mats and fine textiles, each layer carefully placed to protect and honor her. These materials were chosen not only for comfort or tradition, but also to show respect. The Mocha believed that wrapping the body helped the soul pass into the next world around her. The tomb was filled with objects meant for someone important. There were ceramic vessels, tools, and many symbolic items, but the most striking details were the ones that glittered in the light. The Lady of Kau wore gold jewelry, heavy earrings, nose rings, and possibly a golden mask. The mask may have once covered her face either in life or death. To the Mocha, gold was not just wealth. It was a symbol of divine power. Only rulers, priests, or godlike figures were buried with such treasures. Near her body were weapons, not simple tools, but ceremonial clubs and spears. These were not placed by mistake. In Mocha society, such weapons were signs of strength, leadership, and warrior status. It was rare for women to be buried with these items. That's why her tomb was so surprising. It showed that she was more than a priestess. She may have been a leader, possibly even a ruler. The Mocha buried her with symbols of both spiritual and military power. Everything about the burial, her wrap in the jewelry, and the weapon spoke of someone with high status, someone respected in both life and death. The people who buried her made sure the world would remember who she was, or at least who they believed she had been. At first glance, the Lady of Kau may not appear different from other important Mocha burials, but a closer look reveals something rarer. Woman buried with the power of a man or more. Her tomb was not just rich, it was royal, and the items found around her tell a deeper story. Weapons by her side were a clear signal. In Mocha society, clubs and spears were linked to leadership and warfare. They were not given to wives or assistants. They were reserved for those who led men into battle or held ceremonial control over warriors. That she was buried with such weapons means the people who buried her believed she had that kind of power. Beside the weapons were ceremonial vessels and jewelry, many made of gold. These items weren't just for show. They were used in sacred rituals likely performed by the lady herself. Some vessels show symbols of water, fertility, and the moon signs linked to the Mochas. Most important deities. Items like these belong to priestesses or rulers, not ordinary citizens. Her tattoos tell another part of the story. Serpents and crabs twist across her arms and hands. Birds fly up her shoulders. These animals weren't chosen at random. In Mocha belief, the serpent represented earth and power. The bird symbolized the sky and messages from the gods. The feline often stood for strength and divine judgment. These symbols marked her body as sacred. They suggested that her power came from the gods. Some archaeologists believe the Lady of Kau served as both a spiritual leader and a political figure. The mix of religious and military items in her tomb supports this idea. She may have been a priestess who ruled or a ruler who performed rituals. Either way, she held more authority than anyone expected a woman to hold in that world. Body, her tomb, and her symbols all point to a single truth. She was not hidden, she was honored. Not a wife of a ruler, but a ruler herself. Dressed in gold and buried with power. To the Mocha, gold was more than a precious metal. It was a material full of meaning. It came from the earth, but it looked like the sun. Its warm, glowing color reminded them of the sky's most powerful force, the sun god. This connection gave gold a spiritual value far beyond its beauty or cost. Gold was thought to carry energy from the gods. It was believed to have the power to heal, to protect, and to guide souls after death. In the Mocha world, it was used in religious ceremonies not just to honor gods, but also to dress and decorate those who were close to them. The sun, being the giver of life, was central to many rituals. Gold became a way for humans to communicate with the divine, to reflect the light of the gods during sacred acts. Golden objects found in the Lady of Kau's tomb were not simple jewelry. They were symbols of her status and spiritual role rings. Nose ornaments and crowns were worn by rulers and religious leaders. These items weren't meant to show wealth. They were meant to show authority. People who wore gold weren't just important, they were chosen by the gods, or they were thought to carry a piece of the gods within them. Most powerful of all may have been the golden death mask. While the Lady of Cow's mask has not survived, fully intact evidence suggests that one may have covered her face. These masks were created with great care. They were often placed directly over the face of the dead, molded to match their features. The idea was not just to protect the face, but to preserve the identity of the person in the afterlife. The face was important. It was how the soul was recognized by spirits, ancestors, and gods. The mask also served as a shield. It kept evil away, and it held the soul in peace. For rulers and priestesses, the mask was a final gift. It helped carry their power beyond death. It told the living and whatever lay beyond life that this was no ordinary person. This was someone who had touched the sacred, and who would not be forgotten. The discovery of the Lady of Cow was more than just an archaeological success. It also challenged what many people believed about the ancient Andes. For a long time, historians thought women in Moche society played quiet or limited roles. They were expected to stay behind the scenes raising children, caring for homes, or serving as assistants in rituals. But the Lady of Cow changed that view. Her tomb showed power, leadership, and status. She was buried like a ruler. This made researchers ask new questions. Could women have ruled in ancient Peru? Were there other powerful women whose stories had been lost? The Lady of Cow helped open the door to these questions. Today, scientists continue to study her remains. DNA tests and modern tools reveal more about her health, her diet, and how she lived. Her bones show signs of stress, possibly from pregnancy or illness. Her teeth show what she ate, foods common among the high classes of Moche society. Even the tattoos on her skin are still being studied. Experts believe they have meanings tied to religion, healing, or protection. As more details are uncovered, interest in her story grows. Museums in Peru and around the world now show exhibits about her life and culture. The El Brullo Archaeological Complex even has a full replica of her body on display. Visitors can walk through her story, learn about the Moche, and see the beauty of her golden artifact. She has also become a symbol for women's history in books, news reports, and even social media. The Lady of Cow is celebrated as a forgotten leader. Her story is often used to remind people that women in the ancient world held real power, even if their names were lost for centuries. And thanks to her discovery, more researchers are now searching for the stories of other hidden queens buried in the sands of time. She was young when she died, likely no older than 25. But in death, she was honored with the kind of splendor reserved for kings and gods, wrapped in layers of cloth, surrounded by weapons and sacred objects, and adorned in gold. She was buried as a leader. Her tomb spoke louder than any written recorder. Golden jewelry and possibly her golden mask were not placed by chance. They were signs of deep spiritual and political power. The people who buried her believed she was chosen by their gods, by fate, or by tradition to lead. And they made sure that her story, though silent for centuries, would shine again when uncovered. The Lady of Cow is more than an archaeological find. She is proof that power in the ancient world could wear many faces, even the face of a woman. Her story forces us to ask, how many other women ruled in silence? How many voices have been buried simply because no one thought to listen? Thank you for watching this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a like. If you want to keep exploring history's forgotten tales, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. We post new stories regularly, and we love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us what historical mystery you'd like us to cover next. And until then, thank you for being part of History Screen, where the past is never truly lost.